And this is a game that launched several years back, and there's quite a lot of content out for this game now, including a bunch of different ways that you can play the game. But this is a game that plays 2 to 5 players, with up to 4 players playing as a cooperative experience, and then 1 player playing as the Overlord, controlling all the enemies. Like I said, there is quite a lot of content out for this game already, so be careful if you go to check out their campaign. But if you are interested in a purely cooperative experience, this is a scenario game, and there was a few fully cooperative scenarios offered in a previous expansion. But if you're not familiar with this game, you're going to be choosing one of those scenarios and then setting up the main play area according to that scenario. This would mean setting up the map, which can use various boards and tiles, and then also setting up any of the starting characters or items out on those boards. Of course, each of these scenarios will have their own little backstory associated with them, and also different goals and objectives for both the cooperative players or the Overlord to try and achieve. There are a whole bunch of different characters in this game to play as, and the heroes are going to be choosing one of those characters and taking the associated board along with it. The way this game works is that you're going to be using energy cubes in order to perform any actions on your turn. At the start of your turn, you're going to be deciding whether you want to be in an active state or in a rest state, and depending what you choose, it's going to limit the actions that are available to you, but it's also going to determine how much of your energy is returned. The different actions will allow you to move around on the board, defend or attack in different ways, or even interact with different elements out in the environment. There's also different items and gear that you can collect as well to help you along the way. And like I said, the Overlord player is going to be controlling all of the enemies out on the board, but the way that they do that is with a similar mechanism of using their energy cubes, but their turn is going to work a little bit different because they're going to be able to activate 2 different groups of enemies on their turn. The way that they do this is by activating one of the cards in this row at the bottom of their board, with the leftmost cards being the easiest to activate, because the further you go to the right of the board, the more costly those cards are going to be. But anytime that you choose to activate one of these cards, you're going to be able to activate each of the enemies that are a part of that group. Once you do that, that card's going to move to the most right-hand side of the board, pushing all the other cards 1 space to the left. Unlike with the heroes, where all their actions are specified on their hero board, with the enemies, the actions are actually going to be specified on their enemy cards, so depending on which enemies you activate, you could actually have very different actions available to you. But the game continues like this, alternating between the heroes' turns and the Overlord, until one of them is able to complete their win condition, winning the game. Like I said, this campaign's going to be offering a few new additions to the game, but if you don't own anything already, if you're interested in some of the previous content, some of that will be available in this campaign as well. But the 2 main expansions offered in this game is the Red Nails expansion, which is going to be exploring new areas and characters in the game. And it's going to be introducing new terrain that has more rivers and vegetation and cliffs, offering key vantage points on each of the maps, but also making movement and ranged attacks more difficult, while simultaneously making melee combat a little bit more advantageous in some situations. Second expansion is essentially adding a new way for you to play the game, which is a versus mode where you're going to be able to draft characters and then fight against each other, much like they offered in the Batman Gotham City Chronicles campaign. If you are interested in this one, you can check it out. I'll have it linked in the description below, and of course you can click to get notified.